Good morning from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of New Bern. We'd like to welcome you to our morning service. We are a welcoming fellowship of kindred spirits, open minds, askers of questions, accepting, free, responsible, respectful, seeking to be conscious and to build a world community. Thank you for joining us. I am Mike Sagasser, your presenter this morning, and Sam Love will be speaking about Lessons from Earth Day. First, a few necessary words. It's very important, please, that you keep on sending your pledges and donations to the church, because even though we're not meeting on our normal way, the bill still exists. We still have wages and we still have a mortgage to pay. So if you could, remember to do that this week. You can either send them directly to this building here, the uufnb Fellowship Building, which is at 308 Meadows Street, New Bern, North Carolina, 28560. And by the way, that address can be found on a website, uufnb.org. Or better yet, perhaps, send it directly to our treasurer, Trish Hardy, and you will find her address in Lisa's directory. Likewise, we're not doing joys and sorrows as we always did before. Nowadays, just email your joy, your sorrow directly to Nina Powell, and you can find her email address also on Lisa's directory. Now, earlier this morning, some of you may have noticed that Christina posted a children's story and lesson, which we're going to be doing on a regular basis now. We encourage you to take a look at that and participate and get the kids to look at it. So let us know how you're thinking about that. Also, because of the new world that we find ourselves in now, we would like your ideas regarding digital meetings. There is a lot of discussion now going on about how we might reconstitute our coffee clutch into digital coffee, and using software packages like Zoom. Some of us have Zoom accounts. I happen to be using it for teaching school, as is Rebecca and others. So please give us your ideas and how you think this might work out. And while we're on the subject of staying connected, many of us have a lot of extra time nowadays, and there are people who are, well, alone at home. So with the free time that you have, we would encourage you to call someone. Pick up the directory, Lisa's directory, try to figure out who on that list might like to hear a word from someone and give them a shot. If you don't have Lisa's contact information, please get a hold of me or somebody in the fellowship, and we'll get it to you. Also, Tom Shoup is working on getting together a network of callers, which we make available soon. And of course, we have our own Jerry Mackle, who continues to put out our indispensable and effective UU update via email. Okay, the service. Words by Laura Kelly Fanucci. When this is over, may we never again take for granted a handshake with a stranger, full shelves at the store, conversations with neighbors, a crowded theater, Friday night out, the taste of communion, a routine checkup, the school rush each morning, coffee with a friend, the stadium roaring, each deep breath, a boring Tuesday, life itself. When this ends, may we find that we have become more like the people we wanted to be, we were called to be, we hope to be, and we may stay that way, better for each other because of the worst. We now kindle a flame of hope in our future. May we find each other, in each other, a hope to work, serve, and love as we must. Now reading about the first Earth Day. This comes from earthday.org. The first Earth Day in 1970 mobilized millions of Americans for the protection of the planet. On April 22nd, 1970, 20 million Americans, 10% of the U.S. population at the time, took to the street, college campuses, and hundreds of cities to protest environmental ignorance and demand a new way forward for our planet. The first Earth Day is credited with launching the modern environmental movement. Earth Day is now recognized as the planet's largest civic event, and it led to passage of landmark environmental laws in the United States. Now, Dennis Hayes, the organizer of the first day, Earth Day in 1970, and Earth Day Network Board Chair Emeritus, says, despite that amazing success and decades of environmental progress, we find ourselves facing an even more dire, almost existential set of global environmental challenges. From loss of biodiversity to climate change to plastic pollution, that call for action at all levels of government. Progress has slowed, climate change impacts grow, and our adversaries have become better financed, said Earth Day Network President Kathleen Rogers. We find ourselves today in a world facing global threats that demand a unified global response. For Earth Day 2020, we will build a new generation of environmentalist activists engaging millions of people worldwide. Now, our presentation. Our presenter today is Sam Love, a past president of our fellowship. Sam worked as the Southern coordinator of the national staff of the first Earth Day in 1970. This month we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic is sucking up the media oxygen, and it may not get that much attention. Sam is also president of our local Nexus Poets that organizes a monthly poetry reading. Sam Love's poetry book, Cogitation, is available from Unsolicited Press. He published an award-winning illustrated children's book, My Little Plastic Bag, which is available in both Spanish and English. His new collection of environmental poems, Awakening, is being published by Fly in the Wall Press in Manchester, England. His poems have been published in numerous publications and online sites. And now, Sam Love presents to us Lessons from Earth Day.
This is stainless steel, no plastic. Thank you, Mike. We are now in April, which is usually Earth Month, cultivating and celebrations around April 22nd, Earth Day. This year will be the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, but unfortunately, as Mike said, COVID-19 has put a damper on large gatherings, so it will not get the attention that it deserves. But in keeping with the Unitarian seventh principle of respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, it is fitting that we explore Earth Day. In 1970, I was fortunate enough to work on the national staff that organized the first event. I worked as Southern Regional Coordinator, helping to organize events around the South, and I was also co-editor of the group's newsletter. I had a front row seat on the organizing of one of the largest public events in history. I have a lot of memories from the time, but really all I've got left are these two lousy buttons, the original buttons from Earth Day in 1970. But let's look at how it happened. So Mike is going to we're going to bring some pictures, and since we have to turn the camera, it may be a little unnerving. After World War II, pollution and environmental destruction assaulted the nation. Major smog gripped our cities. Rivers were even catching fire from the chemicals in the water. Suburban sprawl started eating up the landscape, and the interstate highways were cutting through our urban neighborhoods. Oil spills were wrecking our coast. Our national symbol, the bald eagle, was on the verge of extinction. Some people started speaking out, including Rachel Carson, whose book Silent Spring, published in 1962, explored the toll chemicals were taking on wildlife. So Mike's going to show you a picture. Also in 1968, we started seeing pictures of the entire planet from space. For the first time, we saw what a lovely blue and green orb that is our home in space. Now, all of this helped raise people's awareness of the fragility of life on Earth, and people started protesting. On campuses, students conducted teach-ins similar to the anti-Vietnam teach-ins, and Senator Gaylord Nelson decided there should be a national day of environmental teach-ins. So he raised money and hired Dennis Hayes as the first national coordinator. Hayes hired a skeleton staff, and I was one of them. And in the beginning of 1970, organizing started for the National Environmental Teach-In on April 22nd of 1970. We worked out of a cramped office space in DuPont Circle. The tiny staff and volunteers worked day and night to help spread the message. Now, the group had very little money, but gambled on buying a full-page ad in the New York Times to announce the event. I remember Steve Cotton, the group's press organizer, ordering the largest font the layout artist could print for the name Earth Day. Over the years, a lot of people have claimed credit for the name, but it is murky who used it first. But with the ad, Environmental Teach-In became Earth Day. And number 6, and that's the button that I'm actually wearing. And the ecology symbol that was developed by cartoonist Ron Cobb became the organizing symbol. Here is one of the most popular buttons promoting the April 22nd event. And now they're collector's items. The New York Times ad, let's go, okay. That's good. The New York Times ad was a fundraising success, and more importantly, it got the attention of the national media. And we started getting major stories in television, news pieces, magazines, and newspapers. Among the most active reporters was Walter Cronkite. And for weeks before Earth Day, CBS ran regular environmental stories and updates on the organizing. Okay, next picture. I continued to organize the South and collect stories of local organizing throughout the country for our small newsletter, Environmental Action, April 22nd. We could see the idea catch fire as groups sprang up in communities and on campuses. It even started growing internationally. And when that day finally arrived, the spring weather was beautiful and the crowds were massive. It is estimated between 20 and 50 million people around the planet participated. 1 out of every 10 persons in the United States. The message of the first Earth Day was sent loud and clear. People wanted action on environmental issues. Now you can swing back to, oh, okay. And now you can bring the camera back to me. Okay. This is like primitive television broadcasting from the Stone Age. But thanks to Mike's help, we're making it happen. So after Earth Day, the environmental teaching staff formed a permanent organization, Environmental Action, to press for legislative changes. Politicians could not afford the issue, and as a result, there were major legislative victories. In the 4 years after Earth Day, the Environmental Protection Agency was founded, and Congress passed landmark laws. The Clean Air Act amendments of 1970 set new limits on air pollutants from factories and transportation vehicles. The Endangered Species Act of 1973 provided new protections for vulnerable animals, including the bald eagle. And the Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974 set new restrictions on what chemicals could come out of our taps. In addition, numerous schools started environmental studies programs, which educated an entirely new group about the issues surrounding our environment. So what are the lessons from the first Earth Day? First, it showed that if enough people speak out, the power structure has to listen. It brought environmental changes and awareness. And we're much better today for that organizing. It fueled hope that other causes like the anti-war movement could end the war in Vietnam. Of course, now we are in a very different media age. People are overloaded with information, and I'm convinced that this limits our ability to think clearly. The CBS Evening News has given way to Facebook posts which come from the deep underbelly of our society. COVID-19 has paralyzed nations around the planet, so there will not be large gatherings about the environment. Plastic is strangling our waters. Trump's EPA is turning back the clock on many of our environmental victories, and some of his supporters want to abolish the Environmental Protection Agency. With the emergence of the concept of ecology, we started seeing more holistic thinking about the effects on the web of life. We can't tug one strand like killing off certain insects like the honeybee and not feel the effects on our food supply that depends on the bees for pollination. But I think what Earth Day did was give rise to our subconscious survival instinct. And that's pretty powerful. So one day we may be able to tap into it again. I personally have had a book of some of my environmental poetry published in time for this year's Earth Day. But thanks to COVID-19, all of my readings have been canceled. So now I'm learning to do more with social media to let people know about it and how they can order it online. But one consolation is I don't have to travel to do a reading, so it's reducing my carbon footprint. And we can bring up the next, it's 11. I personally have been trying to revive interest in the ecology symbol, which was based on the Greek word oikos, meaning home or house. And during Earth Day, it appeared everywhere. Mike, you can swing it back to me. So here's a poem from my new book, Awakening, Musings on Planetary Survival. And you can go to my website, www.samlove.net, if you want more information about it. This is a poem about the ecology symbol that you saw the person with the flag waving. Once upon an Earth Day, millions marched to Ron Cobb's creation, melding the E for environment and the O for organism to create the ecology symbol. Such a simple graphic, just a circle and slash to symbolize caring for the planet, respect for nature, and the nurturing of a legacy for generations unborn. Today, I didn't see the ecology symbol at the climate marches, but its co-conspirator The peace symbol seems to be everywhere. At Walmart, you can buy it on underwear and Dayglow t-shirts. The vanishing ecology symbol with its pesky admonition to reduce consumption, reuse materials, and respect nature must be too threatening to the dollar sign worshipers. It must be too threatening to the comfort of North Americans who consume 60% of the Earth's resources just to support our obese lifestyle. It must be too threatening to the 80 million new mouths birthed on the planet each year. Babies who will aspire to America's lifestyle, but babies who will be in for a surprise. If everyone lived like Americans, we would need a planet 3 times the size of Mother Earth, and the last time I looked, she's not gaining weight. So thank you, and as we approach the next Earth Day, please reflect on your impact on the environment. And now back to Mike.
Thank you, Sam, and a very timely presentation and necessary information for us. As I extinguish the chalice now, I'm going to read some words by Denise Colley. Love our earth. Take action to consume less. Use less energy. Respect water. And be a cooperative, collaborative, and creative community. Like the moss and the mushrooms, our children's lives depend on us. I will close now with the words of Chief Seattle. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. So I offer you now shalom and salam and ashe. Namaste. Peace. Please be well.